The last shift at the Galactic Transit Station was always the quietest, and Massey preferred it that way. As a human janitor working in the outer rim of known space, he had grown accustomed to the strange and wonderful creatures that passed through the massive station daily. But tonight, as he mopped the corridors of Docking Bay 7, something unusual caught his eye. A soft whimpering echoed from behind a stack of cargo crates. Massey approached cautiously, his mop still in hand. What he found made his heart skip a beat. A tiny dragon hatchling, no bigger than a house cat, with scales that shimmered like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed with an inner fire. The creature was trembling, its wings folded tightly against its small body, and there was a visible gash along its side. "Hey there, little one," Massey whispered, kneeling down slowly. "What are you doing all alone out here?" The hatchling tilted its head, studying him with ancient eyes that seemed far too knowing for such a young creature. Then, to Massey's surprise, it stumbled forward and pressed its snout against his hand. A single word formed in his mind, clear as crystal despite never being spoken aloud: "Help." Massey knew the laws. Dragons were classified as classes sentient beings, protected under 17 different galactic treaties. Harboring one without proper authorization could land him in a detention facility for years. But as he looked into those pleading eyes, he knew he couldn't walk away. "All right," he sighed, removing his uniform jacket and wrapping it gently around the trembling hatchling. "Let's get you somewhere safe." His quarters were modest: a single room with a bed, a small kitchen unit, and a bathroom. He set the hatchling on his bed and began examining the wound. It wasn't deep, but it looked like it had been made by something with very sharp claws. The hatchling winced as he cleaned it with supplies from his medkit. "Easy now," Massey murmured. "I'm trying to help, Zuni," the voice in his mind said suddenly. "My name is Zuni." Massey blinked in surprise. "You can talk? I mean, telepathically?" "All dragons can," Zuni replied, her mental voice carrying a note of sadness. "But only with those we trust. You helped me when you could have walked away. That makes you different." Over the following days, Massey learned Zuni's story. She had been traveling with her clutch and their guardian when pirates attacked their ship. In the chaos, Zuni had been separated and had somehow ended up in an escape pod that brought her to the transit station. She was lost, alone, and terrified. Massey should have reported her immediately. Every logical part of his brain screamed at him to follow protocol. But something had changed in him the moment Zuni had asked for help. For the first time in years, he felt like he had a purpose beyond mopping floors and emptying trash chutes. He smuggled food from the cafeteria, told his supervisor he was feeling unwell to take extra shifts at home, and spent every free moment with Zuni. She grew stronger each day, her scales becoming brighter, her wings stretching wider. And as she healed, their bond deepened. "Why do you work here?" Zuni asked one evening as they sat together, watching ships come and go through the small window of his quarters. "You are intelligent, kind. You could do so much more." Massey shrugged. A habit Zuni had learned meant he was uncomfortable. "Not many opportunities for humans out here. We're still considered a young species by galactic standards. Most of the good jobs go to races with more experience, more connections." "That is foolish," Zuni declared firmly. "My mother always said that worth is not determined by age or species, but by the content of one's character." "Your mother sounds wise," Massey said softly. "You must miss her terribly." Zuni's mental voice grew quiet. Every moment. It was on the 7th day that everything changed. Massey was returning from his shift when he found his quarters surrounded by security forces. His heart sank. Someone had discovered Zuni. He pushed through the crowd, panic rising in his chest, only to find something he never expected. Standing in the center of the room was a massive dragon, easily 20 feet tall, with scales that matched Zuni's obsidian coloring. Her eyes blazed with an intensity that made even the armed guards step back. And beside her, looking small but unharmed, was Zuni. Mother. Zuni's joyful cry echoed in Massey's mind. The larger dragon turned her gaze to Massey, and he felt the full weight of an ancient, powerful intelligence examining him. For a moment, he was certain he was about to die. Then, slowly, she lowered her massive head in what could only be described as about human. Her voice resonated in his mind, deeper and more powerful than Zuni's. "You have cared for my daughter when you had no obligation to do so. You risked your livelihood, perhaps your freedom, for a creature you barely knew. This is a debt that cannot be easily repaid." Massey swallowed hard. "I didn't do it for a reward. She needed help." The dragon Zuni's mother made a sound that might have been approval. "Which is precisely why you will be rewarded. The dragon clans do not forget kindness, especially kindness shown to our young." What happened next became the stuff of legend throughout the transit station. Zuni's mother, Matriarch Kalthara of the Obsidian Flight, publicly declared Massey under the protection of the dragon clans. She offered him a position as a cultural liaison between humans and dragons, with a salary that made his janitor's wages look like pocket change. More than that, she invited him to visit their home world, to learn their ways, to become the first human to truly understand dragon society. But perhaps most importantly, she gave him something he had been missing for years: respect. News of the human janitor who had sheltered a dragon hatchling spread across the galaxy. Like wildfire, other species began to see humans in a new light. If dragons, ancient, powerful, notoriously selective dragons, could recognize worth in a human, perhaps they had been underestimating humanity all along. As Massey stood in the docking bay months later, preparing to board the ship that would take him to his new life, Zuni perched on his shoulder, her wings now strong enough to carry her short distances. "Thank you," she whispered in his mind, "for seeing me as more than just a lost creature, for seeing me as someone worth saving." Massey smiled, reaching up to gently stroke her scales. "Thank you for asking me for help. You changed everything, little one. You changed everything." And as their ship lifted off into the stars, Massey realized that Zuni was right. Nothing would ever be the same again. But for the first time in a long time, he was genuinely excited to see what came next.